last thing I want to do when I watch an ASMR video is have someone talk to me about mental health and anxiety whilst I'm trying to relax, because to me that's not very relaxing, and I get anxiety from other people talking about their anxiety. Having said that, I do think it's important to talk about it, and as someone who used ASMR and still uses ASMR as an escape sometimes, and just as a way for my brain to temporarily switch off as much as it can, I just wanted to, if there's anyone else out there who uses ASMR for that purpose, I just wanted to maybe give a few tips, if I can, that have helped me with my journey and struggles with anxiety. And if I can help a little bit, then that's what I want to do. So I don't think I'm gonna make this a common thing to talk about my own struggles and everything, because I want it to be a nice, positive-ish, relaxing space. But yeah, I think if I would have come across a video like this when I was younger, then I would have appreciated it. So here I am. So I guess let's start off by doing a very quick summarised version. I have suffered with my anxiety since I was maybe around 10 or 11. I would say I have always been a slightly more anxious child. Not like severely. It never would have been picked up by my parents or my mum. But yeah, when I was about 10 or 11, I went through quite a few life changes quite quickly, and you're still developing, and it definitely messed me up a little bit. So yes, I have suffered with anxiety probably since the age of 10 or 11. It got extremely bad. Well, it got very bad when I was in secondary school. So I was in maybe year 10. So for those of you watching, that would be 9th grade. So I don't know where you are, if that's middle school, high school, I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, around that time it got quite bad, to the point where there was a period of a week where I just didn't want to go to school, and just told my mum I had an upset stomach and I was ill. She took me to the doctors. They said it's probably an anxiety thing. The school were informed, blah blah blah, and I went to a therapist at the time, kind of learned to manage my anxiety. It got better. Like I said, anxiety, I think when you have an anxiety disorder, when you start to feel better, you're like, oh, there's a false sense of security, because you think, oh, I've got this, I'm gonna handle this, and then you realise it doesn't really go away. It's here to stay, but that's not such a bad thing. 10 years later, and I still struggle with it every day, but I manage it, and I think that's what I want to focus on in this video. But yeah, I learned to manage it. It was So being aware of yourself and being aware of your body and knowing the signs of your anxiety and knowing when you're kind of starting to dip a bit and catching that before you do. Another thing is, if you do dip into amber, is reminding yourself, if you do dip into red, sorry, is reminding yourself of the times that you got into that place before and you got yourself out, or somehow you got out. And no matter how many times you dip in there, it doesn't get any easier and doesn't make it any better, but you'll get out. And you will be okay, because you're strong. So I think just reminding yourself of the times where you've been there before and you got out of it is extremely important. What else have I got on my list? Okay, I'm going to say something which I think might be like an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyway. Exposure therapy is amazing, and by exposure therapy I mean anything. If you're scared of spiders, it would be staying in a room full of spiders, or just like being near a spider, or even thinking about a spider can even be classed as a bit of exposure therapy. In terms of like generalized anxiety, it could be being in public spaces. You're scared of being in a public space, so you avoid being in a public space. That can kind of create a whole cycle of you just avoid it, and so you never get used to it, and your brain never learns that it's safe. And that is 1,000% true. I don't want what I'm saying next to take away from that. There are certain times where exposure therapy, whether it be a temporary solution or not, you can't do exposure therapy. And so there's ways around it. So an example, for me, I really struggle to go on trains. The way saying it sounds so funny. I feel like I'm in like a confessions group or something. Yeah, I really struggle to go on trains. I hate it. I feel like it's the whole aspect of like getting, I mean, buses aren't super popular where I am in the UK, but buses would be the same thing. It's to do with not having a hub. So I like to have a place where I know I can go to if I feel anxious. So going on a train to me would be going somewhere like London, where it's not super accessible to drive. And then when I get to London, I'm in a super busy place that I can't just leave. There's no one designated place I could go to feel safe. So for me, I choose to quite often drive, and I think a lot of people will think if you don't take the train to do exposure therapy, then it's never gonna, you're never gonna change. And you might be right, and I'm okay with that. But I can't do exposure therapy with trains. I don't have the money to continuously just go on trains for no reason to build up my exposure to trains. If I absolutely need to, I will go on a train, but it will ruin the week before I have to get on a train. Exposure therapy, yeah, I just kind of wanted to say it can be great, but it isn't always. anxiety itself. And literally reminding myself that I can do what I want to do has just really helped me, and I think it does just come with time. But remind yourself of that, because it's so true. And do what you want to do what you gotta do. If someone's got something to say about it, they're not worth your time. So yeah, those are my more like general tips when it comes to managing anxiety. But like I mentioned earlier, I genuinely get excited to talk about this. The number one thing for managing anxiety is having an anxiety kit. Having an anxiety kit that you have ready and accessible at all times. And eventually it might come to a point where you only take your anxiety kit to certain places with you, or eventually you don't need to take it anywhere, or maybe you just leave it in the car. I have multiple anxiety kits. I have one in my car at all times, and I have one that I take with me to certain places that I'm nervous about going to, or if I'm just particularly anxious that day and it doesn't have anything to do with the place. I know that I have a kit full of things that can help me, and even the psychology of knowing that I have the kit there literally can prevent my anxiety, because I know that there is a whole list of things that I can do to help myself. It's not, oh my gosh, I have nothing around me, what do I do? You immediately just have a list of things that you can go down one after the other that can bring you out of like the anxious mindset or a panic, and it's a miracle worker. So everyone's anxiety kit, mental health, first aid kit, an anxiety pack, whatever you want to call it, everyone's will be different. It's very personal, and whatever helps you. This is what I'm saying, you gotta get to know you. You gotta get to know you and your anxiety and what works best for you. So for me, and this one was actually a tip from my therapist, was having something sour to eat or snack on. So my therapist specified, like she recommended like a sherbet straw, and that for me, just the idea of like having to eat that, they get a bit like salivary and sometimes don't come out in one go, and I don't know, that just didn't really work out for me. So instead I bought are they called warheads? Like the super sour, oh no, they're not called, are they called warheads? No, they're not. I think they're called toxic waste. I think warheads might be like an American alternative. Toxic waste sweets. They're really, really tiny ones. And when you first put them in your mouth, they are so sour. It's wild. And it's all about distracting your senses. So, number one, getting something you can eat and snack on. So, that's specifically something sour. Really like kicks your brain into like, whoa, it like shocks you basically. And then something else you can eat purely just for like if you're feeling sick or lightheaded, get something sugary. If you don't want to have to like bring an actual food, take the sugar tablets around with you. I actually can't remember what the ones that I bought were. Lucozade used to do these like sugar tablets. They're called glucose tablets. People with diabetes sometimes carry them around, and it's literally just like a chunk of like a sugary glucose thing, and you just eat it and it tastes good. They have different flavours. They have plain, and if you've got like, when I was younger, I used to suffer with like low sugar levels, so my mum used to carry them around with us, and that wasn't for anxiety, that was just a medical thing that she used to do. And so senses, something to smell. So something that you like the smell of, basically. A perfume you like the smell of, or I don't know, an item you like the smell of. I don't know, something that smells nice and familiar and comforting to you. Absolutely all for it. The next one is a fan, to do with heat. We always want to stay cool because when our adrenaline starts going, we get a bit hot, or I get a bit hot and I get a bit sweaty. So having a fan, like a portable fan that you can just take and you charge it before you go, and it keeps charged for ages. So hopefully you won't need to use it every time you have your anxiety kit. But yeah, just take a mobile fan with you. So handy. And why wouldn't you? Even just like a handheld, if you don't want to be that person who has like an electrical portable fan with you, just take a handheld fan, or even just like a leaflet where you can fan yourself or someone can fan you for perfection. Another thing, again kind of linked to heat, but also just in terms of like trying to avoid a sensory overload, is just like a hairband, a hair scrunchie, where you can put your hair up, or a claw clip, whatever your choice is, just to keep your hair off your face, off your neck, and to help keep you a bit cool. And yeah, so you don't have like a bunch of things in your face. Everything can get overwhelming when you're panicking. Again, a senses thing, earphones. Don't have to be fancy, but yeah, anything where you can like block out, preferably if you could get noise cancelling, then that's amazing. But if you don't have that, then any kind of earphones will do the job. Just so if you're in a busy place, you can block out the sound, just shut your eyes and pretend you're somewhere else. It's amazing. obviously you have to like sit outside and queue for ages, so everyone had been there for ages, all these